The next book I want to review is Gary Keller's The One Thing. Now, I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to do this book justice, but this is easily in my top 3 books that I have found the most useful from a productivity perspective. I'd also highly recommend Gary Keller's podcast with Tim Ferriss. If you read Gary Keller's book, you'll understand that he doesn't really do public awards or public invitations. In fact, in his book, I think he mentioned that he'd won this well-renowned property award for being one of the, I think, most successful estate agents in America, and he sent his PA along to receive the award. Anything that distracts from the one thing is nothing more than a distraction. So like Gary Keller says in his book, be like a postage stamp. Stick to one thing until you get there. The main thing from Gary Keller's book is what he calls the focusing question, and that is this: what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Now, on the surface of this, you might not appreciate how skilled a question this is, but let's break it down. So it starts with, what is the one thing I can do? So whenever you've got a task, inevitably there will be a to-do list as long as your arm as to all of the things that go into that task. So for example, at the moment I'm working on a mobility package that is designed to help people improve their science or their scientific knowledge of mobility restrictions, what they can do to alleviate them, and also provide sample routines both based on sport and based on problem areas. Now, this book has been months, if not years, in the making, and my one thing for that, and by way of keeping myself accountable, is to get the videos done for that book. The reason why it's my one thing is because being able to film myself talking through exercises is something that I can do. I've got the technical expertise, although anyone who's seen some of my YouTube videos might disagree with me there, and it's something that's actually within my power to do. So it has to be one thing, it has to be something you can actually do. There's no point talking in hypotheticals, as my missus likes to remind me, and this should make the subsequent tasks easier or unnecessary. So for example, with my mobility package, once I've got the videos done, the only thing that I need to do is to sharpen up the visuals of the PDF, which in comparison is not going to take anywhere near as long as it will do to record, edit, and publish the videos. Secondly, once I've got those library of videos, that'll also make it easier for other subsequent tasks, such as the promotion of the mobility book, because I'll already have the content. In the book, Gary reveals, and I find this fascinating, that a domino has, if it's correctly placed, can knock over another domino that is 25% bigger than it. He also gives some crazy statistics about how many dominoes would be needed to knock over the Leaning Tower of Pisa or the Eiffel Tower. I forget which one now. But if you do the maths, it works, and you think all of that started from one little domino. So if you're correctly aligning your tasks, then it's going to be like a chain reaction, whereby the completion of one task will kickstart or make easier the next task on the list. So it's not necessarily about having a to-do list, it's about how you organize that to-do list. Gary also breaks this down in terms of how he goes from a 5-year goal or a someday goal into what do you do today. So you take that focusing question. So for example, what is it that I would like to do someday? And then you ask yourself, what is one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else related to my someday goal will become easier or unnecessary? And then you repeat that question by replacing someday with 5 years, 5 years with 1 year, a year to, for example, a month to a week to a day, and then you end up with, what is the one thing I can do today such that by doing it, everything else related to that task or that goal becomes easier or unnecessary. Now, the reason why I share this extract is because the amount of times I get sidetracked, and I'm sure a lot of people do, by doing something, but it wasn't my one thing. So if your one thing didn't make subsequent tasks easier or unnecessary, it wasn't your one thing. So for example, whilst I can and I do find it easy to get distracted by working on the visuals of my up and coming mobility book, that doesn't make it easier to complete. And it's very easy for me to get obsessed with, for example, how a picture's aligned or whether the edges are smoothed off, when in reality that's not lining up the next subsequent task. Once I've got all the videos filmed for this mobility package, then it'll be much easier to create the visuals around it. So key take-homes of the one thing. By focusing on your one thing, subsequent tasks become easier or unnecessary. That means when you align your tasks appropriately, this is going to lead to a domino effect.